Wendy, this was a different Wendy than me, asks.
I was wondering.
I know.
If we're to keep all 10 of the commandments but worship on Sunday, why keep the commandment at all? Why not all the laws in the Bible, over 600 to keep?
Okay.
So why aren't we keeping all the commandments of the Bible? And why are we keeping most commandments but not all of them?
Sure. That's a really great question, Wendy. I really appreciate you asking that. First of all, I just want to say that to establish, there's like kind of different parts of the question I want to first answer. So you're saying, we keep all the commandments, but we worship Sunday, which is not one of the 10 commandments. The fourth commandment says that, in Exodus 28 verses 8 through 11, Exodus 20 verses 8 through 11, just to be clear, it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou work and do all thy labor. At the seventh day is the Sabbath unto the Lord thy God. So it's the seventh day Sabbath. And it's very, very specific that God blessed the seventh day. You see that in Genesis 2 and 3 at creation, that God, blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, made it holy. So there's no biblical grounds to worship on Sunday. Therefore, it's best to keep God's written law that he wrote in stone with his own finger, which is the seventh day Sabbath. And so that's what I would say as far as the Sunday worship goes. I believe that my brothers and sisters who worship Sunday are genuine believers, and they have right to the tree of life as well. I'm not saying you can't, or I'm not discriminating against any denomination, but I think when you learn more truth, I think it's best to follow it and practice it to the best of your knowledge. The second thing is, God's law is still binding. The law being the 10 commandments. Now this is kind of the confusing part when it comes to the New Testament, because it says law in different places, and it's the same word, commandment, law, in the Greek, but based on the context, you kind of know, is this talking about the law of Moses or the law of God? And those are two different things, because the law of God are the 10 commandments, that he wrote, like I said, in stone on his with his finger. And God says, I change, and I'm the Lord, I change not. But there was a law that Moses wrote, and those are the 600 laws, I believe, that you're talking about, that you can't, like if you have a servant and if they run away, like how you deal with them. If you have an ox and it kills another person with your ox kills somebody because, if you didn't restrain them, what's the punishment for that? Like there's all these different laws in the Old Testament that are, like I said, they're written by the book of Moses, or called the book of Moses, and they were handwritten laws by him. And you read that in Deuteronomy 31. If you want to pull it up really quick, 31 verse 9, just kind of so that you kind of have a jumping off point. So, I'm not just making this up, because I know the Old Testament tends to be a little bit confusing, because there's all these, different things going on. It's like, well, what is, God saying now? What is this for us now? Is this not for us now? A lot of things like these ceremonies, and different Sabbaths days, every 7 years you took a Sabbath on your land, so you're not supposed to grow any crops every 7 years, and the 50 year of Jubilee, things like that. So in Deuteronomy 31 verse 9, it says, and Moses wrote this law and delivered it to the priests. So there's a law that Moses wrote. Those are the 600 laws. And again, you go down to verse, where is it? 26. And it says, just so that this is very clear, take this book of the law and put it on the side of the ark. So in the ark, in the sanctuary, the God's law on the two pieces of stone, the 10 commandments, they were placed inside of the ark. Now, Moses' law was handwritten on a scroll or paper, and it was placed outside of the ark on the side of it. And it says in verse 26, take this book of the law and put it on the side of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there for a witness against thee. So the law of Moses was against you. God's law is for you. Just like it says in Psalm 19, I believe verse 8, it says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. So the law of God is different than the law of Moses. The law of God is a blessing. The law of Moses, honestly, was kind of a curse. And then as you go, as far as, why don't we keep those 600 laws? You see that in Colossians chapter 2. I think we went into this actually last week a little bit. Colossians 2, verses 9 through 14, just to get some context. And that just kind of explains, the book of the law of Moses, that's what was written. That's what was nailed to the cross. So if you look in verse 9, talking about Jesus dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. So it's talking all about Jesus, that we're, buried with him in his baptism, we're raised through faith in the operation of God. But you get down to verse 14, because the big thing that the Jews were pressing the New Testament Christians to do was practice the law of Moses, which part of that was one of the 600 laws was the practice of circumcision. And that was one of the laws of Moses. It's not mandatory anymore to be an Israelite or be one of God's people. So anyways, in verse 14, though, Colossians 2:14, it says, blotting out the handwriting, like we just read in Deuteronomy 31, of ordinances that was against us. Again, it's the law of Moses, those 600 laws, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. So very clear. This is talking about those 600 laws of Moses in the Old Testament that he wrote, that was, contingent on the Israelites being faithful to God in all these ceremonies. So that's, or people call it the ceremonial law. However, God's law, the 10 Commandments written by God, by his finger, in stone, placed inside the Ark of the Covenant, that law is still binding. And Jesus confirms that in Matthew 5:17, that says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but nothing basically in this law shall pass away till heaven and earth be, to all be fulfilled. So it's talking about, not just now, but till the end of time. God's law does not go away. So I hope that was kind of concise. Sorry if that took a while.
Thank you so much.
And did we touch on this a little bit? Was it last week? Talking about the way these things maybe weren't even eliminated, but now we found a new way that they're even fulfilled in a larger way,
Yes.
a greater way.
Yes.
Amen.